Kyle. No, I'm here. Can you? It seems like we're having some mic issues, possibly. Um, is it pretty windy over there? Oh. Hey, Kyle. No, I'm here. Can you? It seems like we're having some mic issues, possibly. Is it pretty windy over there?
Audio check 1 2 3. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, I think I'm back
You're there.
now.
Okay.
I apologize. We were having some audio difficulties there, so we apologize for the slightly awkward start to the stream. So let's give that a part 2, shall we? So again, hello everyone. My name is Kyle. I'm with High Point Scientific, and I'm joined with Tegan today. And we're excited to bring you today something incredibly rare, an annular solar eclipse. Today we're located just outside of Santa Fe for this special live stream, and in about 10 minutes or so, we'll begin to see the start of the solar eclipse. We'll be taking your questions about this historic solar eclipse, how to view it, and taking questions about how eclipses work in general. Tegan, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about High Point Scientific.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. I'm excited to be here tonight, or today, rather. But for a little bit of background about who we are at High Point Scientific, we're the largest retailer of telescopes and astrophotography gear in the United States. Our team of experts, we have a total of over 150 collective years of experience, and we've been serving the amateur astronomy and astrophotography community for decades. We are very passionate about astronomy and astrophotography, and we are here to share our love of the universe, but specifically today, our love of the solar eclipse happening nationwide.
Indeed.
And hopefully, with that, we can share with you tons of information and facts that maybe you have never heard of, and we want to share all the knowledge that we have with everybody that's coming to view the live stream with us.
Indeed. And a little bit of background about what we have here today. We actually have two separate views set up here. we have a view through a white light mylar solar filter that you're looking at right now. This will be the view that's within the path of totality. So this is what we'll be looking at during the solar eclipse today. We also have a view, or we did have a view actually. Well, never mind. Looks like that view has dropped out, but we might have a view a little bit later on today of a H alpha view from Tucson, Arizona, although I know they're struggling with weather right now a little bit too. So there is that. We'll be primarily viewing through this view though. Now, for those of you who have tuned into streams in the past, you might recognize a lunar eclipse, for example, as being when the moon passes behind the shadow of the Earth. During a lunar eclipse, the moon appears to turn red as the shadow of the Earth passes in front of it. Here today, however, we will see the moon pass in front of the sun and eclipse the sun. Now, this is not a total solar eclipse like the one we saw back in August of 2017. Rather, this will be an annular solar eclipse. But what's the difference, you're wondering? Well, that's a great question. An annular solar eclipse is really a type of partial solar eclipse. While the moon will pass directly in front of the sun, it does not completely block out the sun. Instead, the sun will be transformed into a beautiful ring in the sky that you can see with your eclipse glasses. Trying to look at some questions here coming in. We got one comment coming in from William. He's saying Tegan's the man. Absolutely agree with that. Tegan's great.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Question from Astro Rocket. How often does an annular solar eclipse happen in the United States? Astro Rocket, that is a fantastic question. So an annular solar eclipse will happen maybe once a decade or so. I believe the last time an annular solar eclipse occurred over the United States was back in 2012. I believe that was May 2012. There was an annular solar eclipse that took a similar path to this solar eclipse. The last solar eclipse in general that was visible over the United States was in 2021. A partial solar eclipse was visible from an annular eclipse that went over parts of Canada. And then obviously we had the eclipse in 2017 that took somewhat of a similar path to this eclipse as well. Question, did I miss it? We have a question coming from Unicorn Lover 212, and nope, we are expecting the first contact phase of the solar eclipse to begin in about 6 minutes. And 6 minutes, we will have first contact. And what that means is the disk of the moon will begin to pass in front of the sun. So slowly but surely, you will see views of the sun slowly get chomped out. You'll see the sun get more and more eclipsed, and we will reach the peak of the annular solar eclipse here in just south of Santa Fe at about 10:36 a.m.
So, Kyle, we're going to be seeing the eclipse the moon start covering from the left side of the sun, or is it going to be on the right side if you're looking at the live stream?
That's a great question. If I'm not mistaken, I think it'll be the right, but we will find out during the stream. I actually have not thought about that, so it'll be obvious when it begins to happen. It'll start to slowly get a chomp out of it.
I think it's also important to stay. You gave us a slight description of a solar eclipse versus an annular eclipse, but because the moon is in an ecliptic orbit, or an ellipse, I'm sorry, and it's not a circle, you have the moon is farther away and closer to the Earth at different points. So when an annular eclipse happens, because the moon, this occurs when the moon is at apogee, I believe, when it's farthest or closest to the Earth. Or no, it is farthest from the Earth, and it does not completely cover the disk of the sun.
That's
and a full solar eclipse is when the moon is at perigee, which is closest to Earth. Is that correct?
That is correct. The moon orbits in an ellipse around the Earth. That ellipse, when the moon is further at points along that ellipse that are further away from the Earth, the moon's angular diameter is actually too small to completely block out the disk of the sun, so we get this ring of fire in the sky. Additionally, on the other end, when the moon is closer to perigee, we have that total eclipse, and I think the moon can block up the sun for up to 7 minutes total during a total solar eclipse when it's closest to perigee.
Oh, that's impressive. That would be nice. That would be cool to see. I know the one in 2017, it was only visible for about 2 minutes and 45 or 51 seconds, if I remember correctly.
We got a great question from John asking on Facebook, and John is asking, what are those two black dots on the sun? Tegan, what are those two black dots on the sun?
Those are actually sunspots. They're cooler areas on this on the solar surface caused by magnetic fields, I believe, that are starting to kind of break up because of the rotation differential in the top and the bottom and the middle of the sun.
So
And
that's
that
your answer. We're seeing a bunch of questions about those black spots. It's actually neat because we are approaching what's called solar maximum. So the sun actually has an 11-year period where a variability. If for those who are familiar with variable stars, all stars have some sort of variability to it, and the sun is no exception. But we are closing in on what's called solar maximum, and solar maximum is when the sun is the most active with coronal mass ejections, and as a consequence, we see a lot more sunspots. I actually remember back in 2017 being disappointed during the solar eclipse because we were approaching solar minimum. There were no sunspots on the disk of the sun at all whatsoever. So while this solar eclipse will be an exciting one, solar eclipses are not rare events. At least 2 eclipses on average happen per year somewhere over the world. A similar solar annular eclipse on June 10, 2021 occurred over Canada and Greenland. However, that eclipse was very, very early in the morning and was not visible to nearly as broad of a range of people as this eclipse will be. For those tuning in from places like Bangladesh or Malaysia, you also might remember the annular solar eclipse of December 26, 2019. That eclipse also reached a huge number of people. But this eclipse is really exciting because for those in the United States, it crosses from the west coast to the Gulf Coast, following a path that is somewhat reminiscent of the August 21st, 2017 total solar eclipse that I'm sure we all remember. The annular eclipse will begin first on the west coast of Oregon, crossing over cities like Eugene and Medford. Then, the eclipse will begin to head southwest into Nevada, crossing it over Winnemucca and Battle Mountain. After that, the eclipse will make its way into Utah, passing over Glen Canyon National Park and Canyonlands National Park, before making its way into Arizona and New Mexico, where this live stream is being held. Specifically, this live stream is being held just outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico, about 30 minutes outside of Santa Fe. Those in Albuquerque, just south of this viewing location, will be one of the largest cities in the path of the eclipse. People in Albuquerque and Santa will see a perfect ring of fire in the sky with your eclipse glasses. Here just south of Santa Fe, the eclipse will begin at roughly 9:15, so in about 2 minutes, and will culminate in an annular eclipse beginning at 10:36 a.m. Mountain Time. After passing my viewing location, the eclipse will move into Texas, passing over Odessa. While making its march to the Gulf Coast, it will pass over San Antonio at about 11:50 a.m. Central Time, before finally heading out into the Gulf over Corpus Christi, making its way to Central America. Unfortunately, those of you on the East Coast will be missing out on the annular eclipse. However, everyone in the United States can expect to see some sort of partial solar eclipse today. How much of a partial eclipse entirely depends on your viewing location. If you're watching from Winter Haven, Florida, for example, my home state, you will see roughly 56% of the sun blocked out by the moon today. Folks in the Rust Belt or New England can expect to see only 25 to 35% of the sun fully eclipsed by the moon, while those in the central United States outside of Texas, like Oklahoma, for example, will see more than 75% of the sun blocked out by the eclipse. So we are expecting that first contact here to begin any second now.
Hey, Kyle, we have a good question over here coming in from YouTube. Do you need a telescope to view the eclipse? And this was asked by George Black. As far as viewing the eclipse, if you have a telescope to view the eclipse, then you need a dedicated solar filter that correctly fits your telescope. Otherwise, you do need some kind of solar glasses that you can use to just view the disk of the sun without any magnification. But these also have to be ISO rated. It looks like we have first contact.
Break. Yes, Tegan, I was about to interrupt you there. We have first contact. The moon has begun to eclipse the sun. If you look on the very right-hand side of the disk of the sun, you can see the very edge of the moon starting to come into frame. So this is the eclipse. It is beginning. We have first contact. This will go for about an hour and a half or so as we reach the phase of the annular solar eclipse. This is so exciting.
I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
I am too. We got a question here coming from YouTube. Can we see it from Jamaica? You absolutely can see it from Jamaica. While you won't see an annular solar eclipse, I actually believe the eclipse passes into the Caribbean islands, so you might be able to see it, but I don't have a good answer. You'll have to check for yourself to see whether or not, like, an app like Stellarium to see if you'll be able to see the annular eclipse from your location.
We also have another good question here by Trevor Allen. Why don't you see the moon approaching the sun on a solar eclipse when you see the moon and the sun at the same time all the time during the day? So you do not see the sun approaching or the moon approaching the sun on a solar eclipse because it is a new moon. The backside, the far side of the moon, is completely illuminated by the sun, whereas the front side is it's too bright for us to be able to see visually. And it just passes right in front of the sun, and and given the position and the brightness, it's just impossible for us to see.
Indeed.
It looks like there's something transiting the sun. Is that a bird? That looks like a bird that may have been flying across the disk of the sun.
There's a good chance of that. That would not surprise me. All right. Now, we're also really excited in that while this eclipse is going to be really exciting, we actually have a total solar eclipse that will be happening here in just a few months. And that total solar eclipse will be very similar to the one that happened in 2017, but it will be heading in the opposite direction. So that solar eclipse will begin over the coast of Mexico, move on over to Texas, crossing over cities like Waco, and this will be on April 8th, 2024, for example. And then from there, it will pass over into, I believe, just outside of San Antonio, moving into Arkansas, eventually going over Carbondale, Illinois, which also saw the 2017 solar eclipse. Before then, it'll move into Ohio over Tegan's viewing location, then move on over to Erie and Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh, before heading on into New York and then Maine. So that solar eclipse will be really exciting because it reaches an incredibly broad amount of people all over the United States, even more so than in 2017. So let's hope for good weather on that. But what an exciting time to be able to have two solar eclipses that'll be occurring in such a short period.
And Kyle, for an annular solar eclipse, because there is not full coverage, it is not safe at any time to look at the sun without some kind of solar protection or solar glasses, correct?
Correct.
So you do not want to look at this eclipse, even if you are in the path of totality, without some kind of solar safety glasses or a solar filter for your telescope.
Correct. You need some sort of filter that is designed, that is either like a glass filter would be your best bet, but you need something ISO certified to be able to safely view the eclipse today.
The only time that you can witness a solar eclipse is when a total solar eclipse is occurring at the moment of totality, and that only lasts for a few minutes.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about the gear that I'm going to be using today for the live stream. For those who are wondering and who have an interest in astronomy and astrophotography, I'm using a special type of astrophotography camera called a ZWO ASI 183 MC Pro. It's a 20 megapixel sensor capturing about 19 frames per second. And like a DSLR, it's a color camera. This camera is connected to a 135mm f2 lens. In front of the lens is a 90mm Mylar solar filter, which is protecting the camera sensor from being impacted by the sun's intense light. Now, if I were to do something silly like to take off the Mylar filter, my camera would actually be destroyed by the intense sunlight. The Mylar actually acts to serve as a neutral density filter, blocking out 99.99% of the light of the sun. This is why it's safe to look at the sun through a Mylar filter that meets a specifically designed standard. The camera and camera lens is sitting on top of an Ioptron Skyguider Pro. This is what is called an equatorial mount, meaning that it is aligned with the North Celestial Pole to be able to move along the celestial coordinates instead of alt-azimuth. It is able to move along the right ascension and declination axes. What that basically means is that instead of tracking the sky in 2 axes, I only need to track in 1. This little mount is a great travel companion. I've used it for 2 years and I've never had any issues using it. As a matter of fact, I was able to bring this entire setup onto a carry-on package onto a plane, so that was really great. And it also runs entirely off a USB cable. So I'm looking at the YouTube side of things, and I see we have well over 1,400 people watching at this time. Thank you all so much for tuning in. It is great to see each and every one of you, and I'm so excited to be able to share these views with you today. Tegan, go ahead and for those tuning in, tell us a little bit about High Point Scientific, who we are, and what we're trying to do today. Okay, it sounds like we may have lost Tegan, but no worries. For some background about who we are at High Point Scientific, we are the largest retailer of telescopes and astrophotography gear in the United States. Our team of experts have over 150 years of combined experience serving the amateur astronomy and astrophotography community. We are all passionate about astronomy and astrophotography, and we are here to share our love of the universe and the knowledge of it with you. Tegan, do we have you back?
Yes, I am back. I just went to go see if we could see the partial solar eclipse right out here in Ohio, and through my solar filter, it does. It's very hard to tell because I currently do not have a telescope, just some solar glasses, and I cannot make out first contact yet.
Interesting. So I actually am looking at the sun right now through my eclipse glasses, and I can definitely see part of it is being blocked out right now. That is super cool. All right, Tegan, go ahead and take over commentary for just a few minutes here while I work something out here.
Absolutely. For those of you joining, I know Kyle just kind of mentioned who we are here at High Point Scientific, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about the solar eclipse. While the solar eclipse, it's going to be an exciting one. Solar eclipses, they're not extremely rare events. They're not as rare as you may think. At least 2 eclipses on average happen per year somewhere around the world. A similar annular solar eclipse occurred actually on June 10th in 2021, right over Canada and passed through Greenland. However, that eclipse was very early in the morning and was not visible to nearly a broad range of people as this one is today. And for those tuning in from places like Bangladesh or Malaysia, you might also remember in December of 2019 an annular solar eclipse. And I remember seeing several amazing photos of that solar eclipse back in 2019, a couple years ago. And that was able to reach a huge amount of people. Luckily, this one is timed very well during the late morning, early afternoon, so it should be visible to several people around the world.
Good deal. All right, so I was actually, what I was doing, Tegan, while I stepped away there, I wasn't anything wrong with the stream. I was actually taking some photos real quick. So of the first contact, what I'm trying to do is take something of a time lapse here, so that way I can share with everybody on social media.
Excellent.
All right, so let's talk a little bit of history and some fun facts about this solar eclipse.
Yes.
Now, admittedly, this is a pretty spooky solar eclipse, happening the day after Friday the 13th and a few weeks before Halloween. Superstitions and eclipses have long history of going with one another. Across cultures and centuries, people have viewed eclipses as omens of impending doom, signaling everything from the wrath of vengeful gods and dragons attacking the sun. So while we're waiting for the eclipse to reach its peak phase here, let's talk some history. In Native American cultures, eclipses were seen as battles between the sun and the moon. The Cherokee, for example, saw a giant frog in the sky trying to eat the sun. To prevent this from happening, the Cherokee believed that they would go outside and make a bunch of noise with drums and whistles and loud voices to scare the frog away from eating the sun. The Navajo believed a solar eclipse would be hazardous for your health and well-being. Traditional beliefs upheld the idea that eclipses were frightful and would warn against eating, sleeping, or being out in the sun during a solar eclipse. It was believed that eating during a solar eclipse could cause issues or even disease, while sleeping could cause sleep deprivation. And obviously looking at the sun, I'm sure as they figured out, would be problematic too. The Mayans were actually able to predict solar eclipses to an incredible degree of accuracy. The movement of the planets, the moon, and the stars were central to their religious beliefs. As such, they kept meticulous records of the motion of the moon and noted that eclipses would fall into patterns known as the Saros-cycle. One such book the Mayans kept for their records was the Dresden Codex. The Dresden Codex was so accurate that, despite being written thousands of years ago, was actually able to predict a solar eclipse all the way in 1991. So they kept meticulous records, and they were able to predict eclipses down to the day for centuries. Now, in ancient China, it was believed that a celestial dragon was devouring the sun, prompting the banging of drums and the firing of arrows to scare away the mythical creature. They also believed that this same dragon attacked the moon during a lunar eclipse. Chinese records would describe a solar eclipse as the sun being eaten, and during this time, they would bang drums and pots and make lots of loud noises to scare the dragon away. And once the sun returned, it was a sign that their efforts were successful. In what's now modern-day Turkey, some have speculated a solar eclipse even stopped a major conflict in the year 1585 BCE. The Lydians and the Medes were said to have stopped right before a major battle when, just as the battle was growing warm, day was on a sudden changed into night. This event so spooked the warring parties that the battle was essentially called off and peace was called. But while this story is likely apocryphal, it is an interesting footnote into how much of an impact eclipses can have. But what is true about this story is that the ancient Greek philosopher Thales did predict this eclipse, likely by observing the Saros-cycle. All right. Now we got a little bit of history facts in. Let's see if we got any more questions coming in that we can answer. Tegan, did you see anything you want to come out here? Sounds like Tegan might have stepped away to see the eclipse again. No worries. Just looking for some questions here that I can answer. They're coming in pretty fast. Again, if you're just tuning in, we are about 10 minutes into the solar eclipse today, and we are being treated with a beautiful view here of the partial phase of this total solar, or annular solar eclipse, excuse me, not a total solar eclipse. Big difference between the two. We see a comment from Loretta saying, 0 clouds out here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Indeed. I'm out here just south of Santa Fe. This is where this live stream is being held from. And I got to tell you, I was afraid that it'd be really cloudy today, but there's hardly a cloud in the sky right now. Tegan, do we have you back? Does not sound like it. Where is the camera location? The camera is located just outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico. Now, have you ever wondered why eclipses don't happen every month? It would stand to reason that the moon must pass in front of the sun every new moon. However, this is not the case. This is because the moon's orbit is inclined from the ecliptic, or the path of the planets all follow around the sun. Because of this, the moon may pass either below the sun from the Earth's perspective, or above the sun. Now, if these orbits were perfectly coplanar, then we'd see an eclipse every month. But let's talk a little bit about the Saros-cycle. We mentioned that a little bit earlier when we were talking about the Dresden Codex. Tegan, do we have you back?
Yes, we have me back.
Okay, good. Were you outside seeing the eclipse?
No, a quick temporary Wi-Fi drop, but we should be good.
Okay, good deal. Good deal.
We had a question from Bill. I don't know if you saw this and may have answered it. Do eclipses happen with other planets and their moons?
That is a great question.
Yes. Yes, I think they do occur, but they would be it would, depending on the size of the moon and the distance away, it likely would not be a total solar eclipse. I think we are situated in a position where we may be the only planet in the solar system to actually experience a perfect total solar eclipse. No other moon is big enough to eclipse the sun, especially at great distances like Mars, Jupiter, or Saturn.
Indeed, Tegan, I actually have a correction for you there. The moons of Jupiter actually do block out the sun from the perspective of Jupiter. You can actually see these eclipses happen through a telescope. If you're observing Jupiter, you can see the shadow of the moons passing in front of the disk of Jupiter if the timing is right. So total eclipses do happen on other planets, but as far as rocky planets that we can stand on and look up, um, the Earth is kind of perfect because the moon is just far away to block out the sun, but not so close that it blocks out all the fun details like the corona and whatnot. So we just live. We just happen to live in the right time where the moon is far enough away from the sun to perfectly block it out.
Thanks for that, Kyle. Yeah, I guess it does make sense if you look on the, if you see a shadow transit across Jupiter, the sun is actually so far away that the moon completely covers the total disk. So yes, visually now that makes sense. So thank you for the correction.
No worries. So, folks, we are about 15 minutes into this solar eclipse, and we are just so excited to be able to share these views with you. I remember actually going out and seeing the August 21st, 2017 solar eclipse, and I'm really curious to compare this one because that was my very first solar eclipse, and this will be my second one. For that eclipse, what I noticed happening over time was the light was beginning to drop. The shadows appeared to get sharper on the ground. The temperature began to drop, and a lot of the birds and the crickets that were sleeping came out for the day. So that was incredibly exciting to see, and I'm looking forward to seeing if that will be the case here today.
Also, I like to compare on our live view the trying to measure the speed of the moon crossing the sun by looking at the sunspots that it's slowly starting to cover. If you look very close to the center of where the moon is, there's some very dim sunspots that you can visually watch the moon slowly cover those sunspots. So it seems quicker than you may think. The coverage of the moon. Indeed. Or the sun.
Very good. Just taking a quick second to do some more astrophotography here real quick.
Yes, and Badger mentioned that the sun is 400 times bigger than the moon, but also 400 times further away, which is exactly why a total solar eclipse can happen the way it does here from Earth, where the disk of the moon perfectly matches the size of the sun.
A comment from Max says, "Why is the dirt on my screen not getting off? It's on the sun." That's what we were talking about a minute ago. Those are the sunspots that are on the sun. So the sun actually has features to it. It isn't a featureless disk. What you're looking is sort of sunspots on the surface of the sun. So those sunspots are massive, by the way. They're larger than Jupiter. Good deal. So if you're looking for some good resources to help your astronomy journey out, I would definitely recommend checking out our Astronomy Hub on the High Point Scientific website. We've taken time to write up a bunch of useful articles that include things such as eclipse guides, how to photograph a solar eclipse, how to observe transits on the face of Jupiter that we were talking about. Some of the best spots in the world to go out and observe as the eclipse is occurring. I'm using a Starlink satellite to connect here. Occasionally, a Starlink will dip below the horizon, and another satellite, it'll take a second or two to reconnect. That's normal. So if I disappear for a second, that'll be why. There's nothing wrong with the stream. It's just the coverage of the Starlink satellites in the sky.
Kyle, it looks like we may have a second view through a hydrogen alpha scope ready.
Let's see if it's there. Share. Indeed. So you are looking at a view real quick. Let me adjust the crop here. You are looking at a view through a hydrogen alpha telescope out in Tucson, Arizona of the eclipse. Tegan, I can't see it very well because the sun's in my screen, but can you describe what we're looking at?
Yes, so there you can see several prominences on the surface of the sun around 11 o'clock and 6 o'clock. The surface of the sun looks very active. It's bright, vibrant orange. It's definitely a sight to behold. That is incredible.
Yeah,
that is really cool.
That really is something special. So yeah, so what a hydrogen? Can you tell us what a hydrogen alpha scope is, Tegan?
Yeah, a hydrogen alpha scope. The sun emits wavelengths of different light. The hydrogen alpha scope is capturing and filtering all light coming from the hydrogen alpha wavelength and blocking everything out. So what we're seeing here is more solar detail on the surface of the sun and more detail in the coronal ejections around the sun. And there's white light filters, which give you a view of sunspots, and then there's hydrogen alpha telescopes and filters, which give you a better view of the solar prominences and the surface.
Indeed, and as you can tell, we're definitely getting deeper into that eclipse period as well. I think I can see a pretty prominent prominence just by the moon, if I'm saying that correct, Tegan.
Yeah, it's about 11 o'clock. If the sun was a clock, about 11:30.
That is phenomenal.
There's a nice size prominence there.
Really quickly, I'll compare views here with out here what we're seeing out in Santa Fe. Here, this is with a visible light filter, and this is with a hydrogen alpha filter. So both are pretty good. Tucson, unfortunately, is not in the path of the annular solar eclipse, but we'll be able to switch between the two during the partial phase of the eclipse.
Yes, you can slightly see the differences between the two, actually, which is pretty cool. The position of the moon, I mean, over the solar disk. You can see the differences from Tucson and from Santa Fe.
Indeed. I see a question from Christian. They're asking, will I see this in Wisconsin if it's cloudy? Depending on how cloudy it is, really all you need is just to see the sun. And the sun can shine through some clouds. So depending on how cloudy it is, go outside. If you have access to this live stream, you can go outside and you have a solar filter or a eclipse glasses. Go outside and, tell us what you can see. And just for the record, we are about an hour away from the total annular eclipse phase of this solar eclipse. So 1 hour away.
From the view out in Tucson, through the hydrogen alpha filter, you can slightly see high level clouds passing in front of the sun, and it definitely makes for a cool composition.
It really does.
It's very cool to see. Yeah. So again, GTR Wendy is asking, where is this solar eclipse? This view of the hydrogen alpha solar eclipse is happening in Tucson, New Mexico, Tucson, Arizona. But if you have the proper solar glasses, you can see this throughout the entire United States. It's not going to be a full annular eclipse, but rather a partial.
Very exciting. Tegan, I'm going to readjust my telescope really quickly, so I'm going to have to ask you to take over commentary again real quick.
Yes, of course. So again, this view here is coming from Tucson, Arizona. He is currently using we'll talk about gear as far as Kyle's using. He's using a dedicated cooled astronomy camera. It's the ASI 183 MC Pro. And he's also using a camera lens, and it's the Rokinon, I believe, the Rokinon 135 millimeter f2. And this is all on a Sky Tracker, a Skywatcher Star Adventurer. And this gear is great for starting out for amateur astrophotography. And as you can see, with a proper solar filter, we can switch to Kyle's live view here in a minute, and you can see exactly what he is able to capture with the equipment that he's using.
Hey, Tegan, I'm back. I'm going to go ahead and switch to that right now.
Yes, yeah, we were just mentioning the.
So here is a view
the white light
of the sun and the moon here.
That's very cool. Kyle, I'm actually going to go see. It looks like we have a small break in clouds. If I can see the partial eclipse from here in Ohio through my solar filter.
Absolutely, Tegan. Go out and enjoy the eclipse. I got a question from YouTube. They're asking, is it happening in Kansas? It is not happening in Kansas. Well, you will see everywhere in the United States, for everybody listening, we'll see a partial solar eclipse, but you will not see a annular solar eclipse unless you happen to be in the following states. You need to be in Oregon, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. Those are the only states that are going to be able to see an annular solar eclipse today. Bill is asking, what effect will it have on the tides? So eclipses do not have any effects on the tides whatsoever because the tides are influenced by the gravitational pull of the sun and the moon. Now, it is true that there is definitely a difference in tides when it's a new moon versus a full moon, but the fact it's eclipsed itself doesn't necessarily make an impact. So again, we are just under an hour at this point away from the annular solar eclipse. Things are progressing beautifully. I'm actually just looking at through the eclipse glasses right now, and I can clearly see a big old chunk of the sun has been taken out. So I'm not seeing anything like the shadows on the grounds like you would see yet, and I'm not expecting that until a little bit longer. And again, you can expect some buffering here as we switch between Starlink satellites. So got a question from Lillian. They're asking, can people in Florida see it? So if the weather is clear out in Florida, you can see a partial eclipse here, but you will not be able to see a annular solar eclipse. Again, the states that I mentioned earlier will only be able to see one. Lots of asks to go back to the other view, so I will do that. So this is a view through the H-alpha telescope.
Hey, Kyle, I am back with us.
Hey, Tegan, glad to have you back.
No luck. We have almost about 90% cloud coverage here in Ohio. I'm hoping that it dissipates a little bit because I would love to see part of the solar eclipse, but we shall see.
Good deal. Tegan, I'm just working some technical issues here. I had an error message come up, so I'm trying to diagnose that. From what you can you tell on your end, is the stream looking good though?
Yes.
Okay.
It looks great from here.
Okay, good deal.
I'm currently viewing Vince's setup over in Tucson, the Hydrogen Alpha.
Okay, good deal. Yeah, that's good. I don't know what the YouTube's having an error message about, but again, folks, this is the first time we've actually taken a stream out to away from anywhere where there's been a solid internet connection. So there's going to be technical hiccups here as we go about this stream, but we're going to do our best here. Again, you will experience occasional dropouts as Starlink satellites switch between satellites, but it's actually just impressive in general that we're able to do this with Starlink satellites.
And coming up here, when we do hit totality, Kyle and I are going to be kind of remaining quiet for the duration of totality, besides maybe a couple words here and there. So if you don't hear commentary from us during the totality or the actual annular lunar event or the annular solar event, it's we're still live. We are just kind of remaining quiet for everyone to enjoy the views that they will be seeing through live stream.
Good deal. Well, Tegan, I see we have about 2,000 people on YouTube watching. So we are about an hour away from the eclipse. So just to give you guys a quick rundown of what's going on here, if you're just tuning in, you're not sure what's going on. You're looking at live views of an annular solar eclipse that's about to occur. These views are being brought for you from Tucson, Arizona, and Santa Fe, New Mexico. Santa Fe, New Mexico is in the path of the annular solar eclipse, whereas the view from Tucson right now with the Hydrogen Alpha telescope is off outside of the total solar eclipse, or the annular solar eclipse, excuse me. And we are with High Point Scientific. Tegan, why don't you tell us a little bit about High Point Scientific, and also tell
Yeah,
us a little about yourself as well. What brought you to High Point Scientific, and tell us a little about your passion and interest in astronomy.
of course. So, for some background, us at High Point Scientific, we're the largest retailer of telescopes and astrophotography gear in the United States. Our team of experts has over 150 years of combined experience just serving the amateur astronomy and astrophotography community, and we are all extremely passionate about astronomy and astrophotography. A little bit about me: I have been doing astrophotography for going on about 8 years. I started with a Nexstar 8SE telescope looking at the views of the moon and Saturn, and I found out you could attach a DSLR to the back of my telescope. So I got the correct T adapters and I took my first photo of the Orion Nebula. It was a very simple 4-second exposure, and the fact that I could see an image of the Orion Nebula that I took from my backyard was absolutely fascinating. And so there, my interest in astrophotography continued to grow. And about 4 years into the hobby, I was just so enthralled by the hobby that I wanted to teach as many people as I could how to do astrophotography, and that being able to photograph the cosmos and deep sky objects and galaxies and star clusters is possible. And it's not just the Hubble Space Telescope taking these photos, it's amateurs that can take photos in your backyard and relaying that message through a medium as High Point Scientific was a dream come true. So it's been an incredible journey, and it's an awesome our YouTube channel. It's an awesome platform to learn about astrophotography, and we just hope that we reach as many people as we can and share our knowledge and our passion that we have about this incredible hobby.
Good deal. Tegan, I'm going to step away for a second again just to work some issues here. So go ahead
Of
and
course.
take over the commentary for me.
So yes, as Kyle mentioned, we have increased viewer count, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're seeing for those of you who are just tuning in to streams now. But if you have tuned into our stream in the past, you might recognize a lunar eclipse, for example, and this is when the moon passes behind the shadow of the Earth. And during a lunar eclipse, the moon appears to turn red as the shadow of the Earth passes in front of it. And we have done several of those in the past. Today, however, you will see the moon pass in front of and eclipse the sun. And this will not be a total solar eclipse, but it is, in fact, an annular solar eclipse. A total solar eclipse like the one that we saw back in August of 2017, when the disk of the moon completely covers the sun, that is a total solar eclipse. And the difference is, an annular solar eclipse is really a type of partial solar eclipse. The moon will pass directly in front of the sun, but it does not completely block out the sun. Instead, the sun will be transformed into a beautiful ring of fire in the sky that you will be able to see with your eclipse glasses. Now, that is only in the path of totality. Kyle is in the path of totality out in Santa Fe, New Mexico, but here where I am in Ohio, we will only see about 30% coverage of the eclipse. It is visible throughout the United States, but you must be in that path of totality to see that ring of fire.
And Tegan, I am back. I was just simply adjusting my telescope again real quick. So I've just switched over to my view here real quick. This is with a white light mylar filter, and we still have about a few minutes. We still have about what is it? It's about 40 minutes until the solar eclipse reaches the annular phase. I'd still say the most of the sun at present is uneclipsed, with a little bit. I'd say about 30% of the sun is eclipsed at this moment.
Mhm.
So
I think
this
that's
is
about right,
awesome
Kyle.
because this has given me such flashbacks to 2017 because this is exactly the same experience, and I'm so happy to be able to share this with all of you. Now, for those of you tuning in, you might be wondering, why are we going to see a ring today instead of a total eclipse? Well, that's a great question, and the reason for that is because the moon orbits in what's called an ellipse, an oval-shaped orbit. The part of the ellipse that's furthest away from the Earth is called apogee, while the point closest to the Earth is called perigee. Eclipses closest to perigee will completely block out the light from the sun because the moon is closer to the Earth. However, eclipses closer to apogee will not block out all the light from the sun simply because the moon is too far away to do so.
We have a couple questions coming in. When does it start Eastern time? Well, it has started, but here in the Midwest and eastern half of the United States, we will not be able to see the full annular ring of fire. We will only be able to see a partial solar eclipse. So if you have the proper solar glasses, go ahead and put those on and take a look. As if it's clear, you should be experiencing a partial solar eclipse right now.
Indeed.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kyle. From Wichita, Kansas, we're asking what percentage of the solar eclipse they will see. I believe around Kansas, it's a 50 to 60% solar eclipse. Oklahoma is around 70%, if I remember correctly.
I just want to say, wow, over 2,000 people have joined on YouTube. I am so grateful for each and every one of you for tuning in. Thank you guys so much. Without your support, streams like this would not be possible. If you enjoy this content that we're making out here for you guys, please share this with your friends and family. Get the word out. Get people excited about space and astronomy. It's what we're here to do at High Point Scientific.
Yes, and we do live streams consistently over all major astronomical events. So if you do like this kind of thing and other content over astrophotography and astronomy, then definitely subscribe to our channel because we try to produce it regularly.
That is very true. Let's see. Seeing still tons of questions about the timing of this eclipse. So let's run down the timing, what's going to happen here real quick again. So the partial eclipse began at first contact at about 9:15 a.m. So that was about 35, 40 minutes ago. So we're about 40 minutes into this solar eclipse today. I'm actually, I don't know if it's just the wind increasing or what, but I feel like I'm getting colder. That could just be because I'm sitting out here in the cold, but I feel like the temperature is starting to drop just a little bit. And I'm also noticing the shadows look different a little bit. I'm starting to notice that it's like everything looks a little sharper, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, Kyle, I remember in 2017 as it approached 50%, the eclipse approached 50% totality, you could start to feel a change in temperature, and it was very surreal, but it was very cool. Like you said yesterday, it felt like you were in a shadow. You were actually in the shadow of the moon, and it's cool that you're able to experience that over in Santa Fe.
I'm really excited about it, and yeah, sorry if my voice is trembling. I am pretty cold out here. It is definitely dropping fair bit here.
What you would say, it's about 37 degrees there where you are in Santa Fe?
It says 47 right now, but I would
47.
argue that it's colder. It's definitely starting to drop. The sun, I don't feel any, I'm feeling less heat from the sun right now for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So that is neat. So the eclipse is just, it's more than just a visual experience, guys. You can feel it. And like I can feel the temperature starting to drop. It was cold already, now it's getting really cold.
And the only place that this is visible is in the United States. Every other part of the world, besides the Central America, I believe, and parts of South America, will not be able to experience this eclipse.
That's correct. This is specific to our hemisphere of the world. As you mentioned, Canada will not be able to see this eclipse. United States is obviously the center of this eclipse. It's peaking actually over Corpus Christi. It heads out into the Gulf of Mexico, heads over Central America, through the Caribbean, into South America. So people in South America will also be able to see the annular solar eclipse today. All right, I'm just looking for some questions here on YouTube. We can answer.
So, Kyle, out in Santa Fe, are you currently give us a brief lowdown of your environment? Are there mountains around you? Are you in the desert? What are you currently experiencing right now?
That's a great question. I'm out. Yeah, I'm basically out in the middle of the desert. I'm surrounded by a bunch of really cool looking mountains, trees, and lots of dirt. It's like I said, it's definitely on the cool side today, with temperatures dropping significantly and the wind starting to pick up here. But I want to know what you guys are seeing in the chat. Is anybody tuning in, watching the stream, tell us what you're seeing right now with your eclipse glasses. What are you excited? What are you seeing? I'm just curious to see. I always love hearing what people's reactions are to seeing literally a big chunk of the sun being taken out right now.
Hopefully it's clear over most of the United States. Here in Ohio, it's actually getting progressively worse as far as cloud cover goes. So unfortunately, I don't think I will be able to experience any part of this eclipse today.
That is a bummer to hear, Tegan.
Well, luckily you're here in Santa Fe, so I am living vicariously through you.
Appreciate that. You might hear some birds and stuff go by too. They're pretty chatty right now. So in the chat, if you have any questions about astronomy in the nighttime sky, High Point Scientific, feel free to ask. I'll be more than happy to answer that too. Question from Tim. They're asking, will the space station be able to see it? I love that question. Yes. So the space station, astronauts on the International Space Station will look down at the Earth, and you'll actually see the shadow, something of the shadow of the moon going across the face of the Earth. And if they had eclipse glasses, they would also be able to see the eclipse as well, just as we're able to see it.
Now, that's only if they passed in front of that shadow. So it's cool to think if you're on the International Space Station, you have the sun 93 million miles away, and then you have the moon 254,000 miles away, and as the moon crosses the sun, you're flying right into that shadow around the Earth. What a sight that would be on the ISS.
Lots of questions about those two dots on the face of the sun again. Tegan, we're not looking at planets, are we?
No, I don't think so. These are actually sunspots. Correct. On the surface of the cooler areas on the surface of the sun. I believe the surface of the sun is 10,000 degrees Kelvin, or maybe it's 5,000 degrees Kelvin. And then the sunspots are not cold by any means. They're just significantly cooler. If you were to blot out the entire sun besides those sunspots would be still extremely bright. Just in contrast with the surface of the sun, they look much darker.
Indeed. And we are it is 10 o'clock my time now. We are about 35 minutes away from the annular solar eclipse, guys. So 35 minutes away from the annular solar eclipse. I'm so excited, guys. Tegan, I'm going to step away a second to handle some commentary, or to set up real quick. So you go ahead and take over commentary for me.
Yes, I want to talk just a little bit more about the gear that you are using. Unfortunately, it looks like there are some high clouds in Tucson where we have our other views using a hydrogen alpha scope. Specifically, it's a Lunt 60 millimeter single stack hydrogen alpha solar telescope and a ASI 533 MC, which is a dedicated astronomy camera. Kyle, with our views currently, this is a white light filter, but he is using another dedicated astronomy camera. It is the ASI 183 MC Pro, and he's using it with a 135 millimeter camera lens.
Hey Tegan, I'm back. Yeah, that's exactly correct. And I love my setup because it's such a great travel setup. I was able to take all of this from Orlando, Florida, all the way to Santa Fe. So it's fantastic to be able to have such a portable setup that I can do so much astrophotography with. And it's definitely something I would recommend. We'd also recommend something like the Skywatcher Star Adventurer or the Skywatcher DTI mounts or the AM3 or AM5 mounts. Those would all be great mounts to be able to use for astrophotography and that are very portable as well. Tegan, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good deal. So we're getting close, guys. This is really exciting. I can clearly tell that the shadows are definitely changing. If I put my fingers sort of perpendicular to each other, I can actually make out the eclipse like on the ground through the shadows, and I also can see the eclipse through the shadows of some of the branches.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's definitely happening, and the sky is much dimmer, and it is beautiful out here. I'd say we're about 50% eclipse at this point.
This is getting me extremely excited for the solar eclipse coming in 2024.
Indeed.
But what makes me nervous is that it is occurring in April, right over my location, and it's about 50% chance of cloud cover. And so it's tempting to want to fly or drive out to somewhere like Texas where it will be visible with a much higher chance of clear skies. But that being said, if it is cloudy, I can only imagine what it would look like at totality. It would be completely nighttime, pretty much, at the time of totality, in the middle of the day, and that would be, even though you couldn't see the sun, I think that would still be a pretty cool experience.
It really would be. I remember back in the 2017 eclipse, and I'm excited to compare how this is going to look. I remember during the 2017 eclipse, I literally felt like there was a sunset all around me. Mm-hmm. And I will never forget the feeling of looking up in the sky and just seeing the sun and the corona spanning like several degrees away from the sun. And then, and then I could see the stars come out in the day. That's kind of what I'm looking to see is like, I know Venus is out, so I'm almost curious to see if Venus will make an appearance here.
The only way I could describe it is right after the moon completely eclipsed the sun, it was like a black hole had opened up in the sky with the sun's flares and just extending outwards. Quite a sight.
It really was, and I'm definitely feeling that again right now. I can definitely, like, the shadows are all changing. Everything feels sharper and dimmer outside. Like, it's 10 a.m., but it feels like it's like just after sunset with the lighting right now. Mm-hmm. So
that's very cool.
This is starting to get spookier for sure. And temperature dropping. I'm chilly, but it's pretty good. Again, we are 30 minutes away from the annular solar eclipse. 30 minutes away. And we will see that beautiful ring of fire in the sky as the moon passes in front of the sun, blocking out 95% of its light and leaving a glorious ring in the sky. Question from Mickey: if it takes the moon 27 days to circumnavigate the Earth, why doesn't an eclipse happen every month? That is a great question. That is because the moon's orbit is inclined relative to the ecliptic, or the path that all of the planets take as they go about the sun. Because of that inclination change, that difference between the ecliptic and the sun, during some new moons, the moon will actually go below the sun or it'll go above the sun. And twice a year during what's called eclipse seasons, we will see it line up perfectly where it will go directly in front of the sun. And did you know that eclipses actually happen in seasons? Eclipses are seasonal because we just had, or I believe we're going to be having a lunar eclipse here. So usually whenever you see lunar eclipse, you can expect to see a solar eclipse within the next lunar cycle.
Dahlia is asking, will they be able to see it in California? Unfortunately, the full annular solar eclipse will not be viewable, but you will see a partial solar eclipse. I believe it's pretty extensive. The coverage is pretty extensive in California, so a drop in temperature is likely to occur. Is that correct, Kyle? Is it pretty, the coverage about 80% in California?
I would say it depends on where you are in California. If you're in Southern California,
Okay.
not so likely. If you're in Northern California, I would definitely say so. I'm looking at
Okay.
my eclipse glasses right now. It is beautiful out here. Like I would say 60% of the sun is now gone. It is, but it's also impressive. Like I actually not trying to look at the sun without my glasses, but it's still incredibly bright out here. So that just illustrates the importance of having these eclipse glasses because without them, even if what seems like a significant chunk of the light of the sun is gone, there's enough to still cause damage to your eyes. I see some questions, people asking if I could share my environment around me. Unfortunately, I'm not able to do so. I would love to be able to do that, but again, we just have the telescope view right now. See, we're expecting 8% in Northern California.
Kyle, we have a question about the sunspots visible and how large they are. Do you have an estimate?
I would say they are the size of Jupiter, I think, or smaller, maybe the size of Neptune. They're big, Earth-sized, Neptune-sized, somewhere around that ballpark. Sunspots may look small, but they're absolutely gigantic. Again, folks, we are under 30 minutes away from the annular solar eclipse, and things are happening quickly here for me. I'm definitely noticing significant changes on the ground, and I know there's a balloon festival going on in Albuquerque, and I hope you guys are getting a good view of that as well.
Is Albuquerque in the path of totality?
It is directly in the path.
So that is incredible.
People in Albuquerque
what a day for a balloon festival.
That is a great day for a balloon festival. People in the balloon festival are going to be able to see a perfect ring of fire in the sky. Now, I would love to see some. I am kind of on the edge of the path of the annular solar eclipse, so we're not going to expect a perfect ring. But if we're lucky, what we might see happen is because I'm on the edge, we might see the sun, what are called Bailey's beads, and that's sunlight that passes through the valleys and canyons and mountains of the moon, and that gives a really cool bead look to the edge of the moon, and that's something we normally associate with total solar eclipses, but because I'm on the edge of this annular solar eclipse, there's a possibility I might be able to see that. Unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to take off my solar filter to show you guys, but I'm expecting something like that. Teresa Brown just pointing out, never look at the sun without proper protection during a total eclipse. I'm reminded of my astronomy professor back when I was a university student. He always, any lecture we had that had to do with the sun, he would open it up with, never look at the sun. So I want you guys to never look at the sun, not unless you have ISO certified eclipse glasses, mylar filters that are properly installed. So the best you could possibly get would be glass filters as well. Sierra's asking, can you look directly at the eclipse without the glasses when it's full? Absolutely not. For an annular eclipse, do not look at the sun without your eclipse glasses for an annular eclipse. Only during a total eclipse are you able to look at the sun without a solar filter. That is the only time and the only type of eclipse where it is safe. For this eclipse, it is not safe whatsoever to look at the sun without your glasses.
And yes, only at the point of totality during a total solar eclipse, just to clear that up a little bit.
Yes.
It also looks like our view in Tucson may be clear. So, Kyle, I don't know if you can check on that for the hydrogen alpha.
Yeah.
scope that we have access to, but I'm not sure what that looks like over there in Tucson.
I'm probably going to stick for this view for now, unless something goes
Okay.
wrong, and I'll switch over to there. But question about the location. This stream is being held from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Jack is asking about the 2017 glasses, if those are still good. Yeah, if they've been kept in a good environment and they're not damaged in any way, those 2017 Eclipse glasses should absolutely be fine. This is amazing, Tegan. Things are changing quickly over here. It's just getting darker and darker, and I'm definitely seeing temperatures dropping, and I'm definitely seeing the shadows on the ground now.
So an annular solar eclipse, is that 95% total coverage technically, or is it 98%?
I believe it's around 95, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So we're getting there. The current time is 10:12 a.m. Mountain Time, so we are an hour into this eclipse, and we have about, I'd say, 20 minutes remaining until the annular solar eclipse. A little over 20 minutes remaining.
We have Mark Baird. He said, thanks for everyone who hit the like button, as I'm sure it will help these guys giving us their time and their knowledge. So we really appreciate that, Mark, and we're just more than happy to be able to share this event for all of those who don't have eclipse glasses or just maybe don't have the clear skies. So we're glad to be able to come to you from Santa Fe, New Mexico, as me and Kyle kind of guide you through this this annular eclipse. So thank you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for liking the stream, subscribing to our YouTube channel. Getting the word out really helps to boost the visibility of the stream. So if you like what we do here, definitely go ahead and like the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It really means the world of us because we want to get as many people as possible excited about these things, because not everybody knows that there's a solar eclipse until like the last minute, and we want to get the word out so that people can get excited, show their family and have an experience to be able to next in April to see the total solar eclipse. In a lot of ways, you can think of this solar eclipse as the build-up to the annular solar or the total solar eclipse in April.
And totality of today occurs at what time? 10:30 your local time?
10:35. So we're closing in. So yeah, if you just saw the stream buffer for a second, that's to be expected. That's likely due to the Starlink satellites as we're switching through them. Hopefully that doesn't happen during totality, but it should only be a 3 or 4 second drop when it does. This is really exciting, guys. I am honestly, I'm shaking a little bit. It might just because I'm cold, but it's like I am so excited right now to be able to experience this again, like just like I did in 2017. I mean, I know things are going to be different because it's not a total solar eclipse, but just this feeling like I can see the shadows on the ground. I can see the light dimming. It is really, really unique to see.
And it's only something that it's hard to describe if you aren't there. That actually everything that you're experiencing right now, Kyle, it's not like a cloud comes over and casts a shadow on the ground and you happen to be on the ground when that cloud comes over. It's different than that, and it's just very hard to explain.
It really is different. I do wish I could show pictures of the shadows on the ground, but unfortunately I didn't think to bring a camera for that. For the next eclipse, we'll definitely do something like that, though. I think that'd be great to be able to show this, because there are definitely weird shadows on the ground right now.
Teresa's asking if we'll be able to see the diamond ring and Bailey's beads. Kyle, you mentioned this a couple minutes ago, but go ahead and answer that for Teresa.
Normally, no, during an annular solar eclipse, but I am kind of in a interesting circumstance because I'm on the edge of the annular eclipse, where the edge of the moon's going to sort of grace the edge of the moon there. We might see Bailey's beads. Tegan, really quickly, I'm going to step away for a second to just get this, to plug in my laptop here and
of course,
get everything ready for the annular eclipse. So I will be back in 10 or 5 minutes.
Absolutely. So earlier in the stream, you may have not been with us, but we kind of talked about the superstitions and the history um, behind eclipses over the past centuries, and I find it very interesting. So today, the day after Halloween, or I'm sorry, Friday the 13th, so we have a spooky solar eclipse, and superstitions and eclipses have a long history of going well with one another. Across cultures and centuries, people have viewed eclipses as omens or of impending doom, signaling everything from the wrath of vengeful gods or dragons attacking the sun. So while we are waiting here for the totality to occur, I just wanted to talk a little bit about some history. In many Native American cultures, eclipses were seen as battles between the sun and the moon. The Cherokee, for instance, saw a giant frog in the sky trying to eat the sun. And to prevent this from happening, the Cherokee believed that they would go outside and make noise with drums, whistles, voices to scare this frog away. The Navajo, on the other hand, believed a solar eclipse could be hazardous to your health and your well being. Traditional beliefs upheld the idea that eclipses were frightful and would warn against eating, sleeping, or being out in the sun while a solar eclipse is happening. It was believed that eating during a solar eclipse would cause issues or even disease, and while sleeping could cause sleep deprivation. And obviously, looking at the sun during an eclipse would cause eye problems too. And that is current if you have proper solar equipment, glasses, or filters. Do not look at the sun at any time. And also the Mayans, they were able to predict solar eclipses to a very incredible degree of accuracy. The movement of the planets, the moon, and the stars were central to their religious beliefs. And as such, they kept very meticulous records of the motion of the moon and noted that eclipse would fall into patterns, now known as the Saros cycle.
Hey, Tegan, I'm back.
Hello, Kyle. We just went over some of the cool history, super
Thank you for doing that, Tegan.
eclipse.
Definitely great to hear that bit of insight. Um, I was just plugging in my laptop, making sure everything's good to go here. My battery's all good. I'm running off a solar panel. I got a Starlink all set up. So everything should, fingers crossed, be good for the next few minutes here while we approach the peak of the annular solar eclipse, guys. It is happening. I am extremely excited. I'm cold, but I'm extremely excited.
Someone is asking, why is it worse to look at the sun during a solar eclipse? It's not worse. It's just bad. It's a bad idea to look at the sun in general. I think there are a lot of misconceptions when it comes to a solar eclipse that it's going to be brighter, but in fact, the sun is dimmer. But take that with a grain of salt, simply because the sun is so bright, you definitely can still damage your eyes by looking at the sun.
Indeed. Yeah, definitely never look at the sun without proper glasses.
Oh, it looks like Tim may have just caught a satellite transiting the sun in our live stream. So that's pretty cool.
That'd be epic. Maybe it was the International Space Station. That would blow my mind. I'll have to go back to the stream and scan it because it sounds like there's been a lot of cool sightings on the live stream.
Hey, Kyle, I'm going to step back for about 2 minutes. I'll be right with you.
Copy that. I'll take over commentary. Got a question from Mary. They're asking, where are you specifically? I am about 30 minutes outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico. Rose is asking, what is the difference between this eclipse and a total solar eclipse? And that's a great question. We talked a little bit about this earlier, but this annular eclipse occurs because of the way the moon's orbit is shaped. So the moon actually orbits in an ellipse instead of a perfect circle. So at points on its journey around the Earth, the moon is further away, and then other points where it's closer. The points where it's further away is called apogee, and the points where it's closest to the Earth is called perigee. Now, for a total solar eclipse to occur, the moon needs to be at close to perigee, but today the moon is close to apogee. Because of that, the moon's too far away to actually completely block out the light from the sun, so we get this ring of fire effect in the sky. Almost 10 minutes away, guys. We are nearing 10 minutes to the annular solar eclipse. So just a programming note, in about, I would say, a minute before the eclipse starts, or the annular eclipse starts, I will wind down commentary on my end, and I will just let you guys listen and see the sights and sounds around me as the eclipse occurs. So before we reach maximum eclipse, I want to mention again that this stream has been brought to you by High Point Scientific, the largest retailer of telescopes and astrophotography gear in the United States. With over 150 years of combined experience, we are here as your solar resource. Keep an eye on our astronomy hub. We are continuously adding new resources to our solar eclipse section. If you're ready to begin building your setup for the next eclipse, check out our solar filter calculator to make sure you get a filter that is safe and properly fits your DSLR or telescope. And don't forget, it's never too early to grab your solar filter or solar eclipse glasses to ensure you are prepared to safely observe the April 2024 total solar eclipse. It is definitely getting darker out here. I'm so excited, guys. There are cool shadows on the ground. I wish I could show them to you. Chris is in Vacaville, California, and they're able to see it through the clouds. It's about 90% right now. I'm so glad you're able to see it. I was worried that the weather would be troublesome for that. Mary's asking if NASA is shooting rockets at the eclipse. Well, outside of High Point Scientific, I also work at NASA, and I haven't heard anything like that yet that we're doing out there, so nothing like that. Mark is saying, I'm buying one after this, just because I'd never thought I'd be this interested in this stuff. Thanks again. Well, Mark, I'm glad I have been able to trigger some of your excitement in astronomy, and we're so thankful that you were able to tune in, and we hope you can enjoy the 2024 solar eclipse. It is definitely getting darker out here for sure. Yeah, the temperature is dropping rapidly out here. Honestly, if I sound like my voice is trembling, it's because I am actually shaking. I am from Florida, so we're used to warmer weather. And right now it's oh my goodness, it has dropped 7 degrees in the last half an hour. It was 47 degrees and it's gone down to 40 degrees. So we got a wind out here too. Hey folks, yeah, we're just dealing with some the Starlink isn't exactly the most stable connection, so if you see the stream drop out for a minute, that'll be why. Hopefully it doesn't happen during the annular eclipse though, but it sounds like it's pretty good so far. So you might see some interruptions, but the annular eclipse will last for 4 minutes, and those interruptions should only be for a few minutes, or a few seconds, excuse me.
Hey, Kyle, I'm here. I'm not sure if you were receiving me.
I am receiving you now.
Okay. I mentioned a little bit earlier. Mark said that you were talking about Mark and his interest now in astronomy, and I think it's a perfect example of why our team here at High Point Scientific loves what we do so much, because we get to share our knowledge with people who do have an underlying interest in astronomy and astrophotography. So it's great to reach the amount of people that we are, just to share our experience with them.
Indeed. I'm just taking some quick photos right now on my end.
How is that going over there, Kyle? I know you want to do a time lapse. How many photos are you taking, and at what interval?
Not a really of a random interval, to be honest with you, because I'm more focused on the stream. Mm-hmm. But I have the software that I'm running off of is ZWO's ASI cap, and anytime I sort of feel like I got a gap in commentary here, I'm just taking some photos. That way we can share to our social media sites afterwards. So I'll probably try to do that during the annular eclipse. Again, we are less than 10 minutes away from the annular solar eclipse. 10 minutes from now, the moon will pass directly in front of the sun from my viewing location. It is dark out here. It's surreal. All the shadows are super sharp.
That is so cool.
The animals are confused, I'm sure.
We have a comment. Although partially cloudy here, the sensor lights on houses are beginning to switch on, which is that's so cool.
It really is cool.
I wish that was here in Ohio. Unfortunately, I'm about 30% totality, so not too much of a change in temperature.
It's about 38 degrees now. So
stay warm. I hope you brought enough jackets.
I have a jacket on. It's just sitting here for a while. It'll get to you. But yeah, the temperature has dropped about 10 degrees.
Well, we appreciate you being out there and in the elements, taking on this cold firsthand. I know it is all worth it. It is a solar eclipse, so I would take temperature to be able to witness a solar eclipse. But we are very appreciative, Kyle.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm watching it through the eclipse glasses right now, and yeah, there's just the tiniest sliver of the sun left. This is happening, guys. This is so cool. I am so excited right now. Like, I mean, this is but
90%.
My voice, I am so. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely a view here on the live stream. It's like the sun looks like a crescent moon, a very thin, perfect crescent moon. And again, it is the moon just passing in front of the sun. I'm extremely excited to see fire. I've never been able to witness this live, Kyle. Even though I'm not there, I'm really excited. This is so cool.
And yeah, I'm thankful for you, Tegan, for coming in and helping out with the commentary today. It's been it's been so great talking to each and every one of you, getting everybody excited about the eclipse, hearing about people's experiences today while enjoying this eclipse. Like this is I am so excited, right? I keep saying it, but I really am just incredibly excited right now, and I'm sure you can hear it in my voice. This is awesome.
Now, Janet says it's cloudy in Ohio. We have a little bit of other people talking about they're from Arkansas. So if you could tell us, everyone watching, tell us viewing this eclipse from, or where you're viewing this live stream from. We love to see where everyone is able to view this eclipse across the United States, or even if you're viewing in a different country that is not experiencing an eclipse. We would love to hear where you all are from.
Indeed, and we are about 5 minutes out, 5 minutes away from the annular solar eclipse, guys.
And Mark is asking if Kyle, you can post those pictures that you're taking of your time lapse to High Point Scientific, maybe the website and Facebook or the Instagram.
Once you're
finished processing those. Excellent.
I will. This is awesome. All right. Yeah, it's like I'd say over the last just 2 minutes, it's gotten even darker. It's remarkable.
Wow. So we have people from Toronto, Santa Barbara, Washington State, Netherlands, Canada, Bulgaria, Utah, Central Georgia, Missouri, New Mexico, California, the Netherlands, Ohio, South Carolina, Poland. It's so incredible.
Shout out to my family watching in Michigan right now too. I'm sure they're excited to see this unfold as well. Here we go, guys.
It's getting so
And you can clearly see how the moon is slightly smaller than the disk of the sun here. So this is
yes,
definitely an annular eclipse. So we're coming up on that
oh,
ring though.
3 minutes
3 minutes
until
away.
we witness totality.
3 or 4. I'd say probably closer to 4 actually.
Qatar, Belize, Belgium, the Netherlands, Houston, Sacramento, California. These are all incredible.
I can see these poor birds going by. They look so confused. They're like, "What's happening? Why is it night? It was just night
Kyle,
a few hours ago."
Can you see Venus yet in the night sky?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let me look. Not obviously, no.
No.
I would think I would be able to. Maybe I'm not looking the right direction. Oh wait, correction. I do see it. Venus is out in the sky. I see it clearly.
Nice. What about Mercury?
Nothing. No other planets. Wait, I see.
I can check Stellarium for you and let you know
goodness,
the general.
Tegan, I see multiple stars. I see 3 planets. This is awesome.
Oh, that's amazing.
This is something else. There are stars coming out, Tegan. About 3 minutes away from the eclipse, guys. There are stars out in the sky.
So you should see Mercury around to the top right. You have Spica just to the bottom left, and then you have Mars almost directly opposite of Mercury. Venus should be quite visible, and around Venus you should see the star Regulus, and also Arcturus, and maybe even Antares low on the horizon.
I don't know if I see all of them, but I definitely see Venus and another planet or 2.
Well, those are the brightest stars visible currently.
We're closing in, guys.
We're very close here. In about 2 minutes, it looks like we will see a annular eclipse, and I hope we can see Bailey's beads. I'm very excited to see that the disk of the sun on the right side just start to grow around the moon as the moon approaches the center of the sun.
There's just the tiniest sliver of the sun left. This is it, guys. About 2 minutes away. This is surreal.
And here during totality, we will take a brief moment and commentary. Is that correct, Kyle? Is that still the plan here?
Yes, sir. All right. At this point, Tegan, we're going to go semi-silent here and let you guys enjoy the eclipse. We'll see you guys on the other side. Here it comes. And there it is, folks. There it is, folks. We have the annular solar eclipse. What a beautiful display of celestial mechanics. It's just amazing to see this and to know that we live in such a beautiful and dynamic cosmos. This is extraordinary, guys. I see a beautiful ring in the sky through my eclipse glasses. Again, watching through my eclipse glasses.
Kyle, here from Ohio, the live stream, it looks absolutely incredible. That's
Exciting.
So cool.
Again, this will last for about 4 minutes. This is so beautiful, Tegan. I wish you were out here with me. Again, we're just taking a pause in commentary so I can just enjoy the eclipse with my own eyes with a solar filter on. About to reach third contact here. All right, Tegan, it looks like we're out of the annular eclipse.
Kyle, are you receiving me?
I am, yes. Well, Tegan, if you're trying to talk, we lost you, but
Okay, no, I think I'm here. I sorry, I had a very quick drop in Wi-Fi, but everything looks and sounds good so far. I think we're good.
Good deal. Yeah, I just want to describe what I saw. The eclipse is over.
Yes.
It definitely got brighter out. We're still in a partial phase here, but what I saw was rings on this ground. Like I saw like the shadows that I was looking
nice.
at turned into rings. So I was like surrounded by rings. It was the most surreal sight. There were just rings everywhere.
And how bright was the actual the sky still at the point of totality? The sun is still very bright, and it would hurt your eyes to look at. Correct.
Correct. It was. I didn't see any significant stars besides I saw Venus and I believe another planet, and that was it. I didn't see any other stars come out. But what I saw was, the sky was still pretty bright, but.
We have a quick question about the lens you're using for the stream. You're using the 135 lens with the ZWO ASI 183 MC, right?
That's correct.
Still an awesome view, even though it's past totality. The view of the sun and the moon is still incredible. It looks like a very thin crescent.
Good. Yep, it definitely was a sight to see, Tegan. Like I said, I wish you were out here with me.
Yeah, it just gets me more excited about the eclipse in 2024 next year in April, on April 8th, I believe. 2024, there will be a total eclipse.
Indeed. And Tegan, for people who are just tuning in, can you tell people a little bit about who we are and what we're doing here?
Yes, absolutely. So we're doing a live stream. I'm Tegan, joined with Kyle, and we were excited to bring you today something rare, an annular solar eclipse. For a little bit of background, we are High Point Scientific. We're the largest retailer of telescopes and astrophotography gear in the United States. Our team of experts, we have a total of 150 years of combined experience serving the amateur astronomy and astrophotography community. We're all passionate about astronomy and astrophotography, and we are here to share our love and passions about the universe, and as well as all of the knowledge that we have to offer you.
Appreciate that rundown, Tegan. Really quickly, we have a view, I believe, from Vince out in Tucson with his H-alpha telescope. Let's see if we can switch to that. Check that out. That is a beautiful view right there. You can see those prominences with the H-alpha telescope. Unfortunately, Vince out in Tucson was unable to be in the path of the annular eclipse, but he did get a beautiful partial eclipse, so that's what we're looking at right now. You can clearly see those prominences on the side of the stream, the side of the limb of the sun there. Absolutely beautiful view.
Oh, there we go. Now we get it. Yeah, it just popped up on the live stream. Yes, that is the solar prominence is there. Absolutely awesome.
They really are. It was a sight to behold, guys.
Now, this is definitely more reminiscent of a crescent moon here, because it's more partial than what you're experiencing. The sun definitely looks like a hydrogen alpha crescent moon emitting incredible flares off the surface.
Indeed. Serena saying, can't wait to see you here in April for the total eclipse. Can't wait. We are really excited about that one, and we hope that you were able to tune in for that one as well. I saw a question. How big were the shadows that you saw, the ring shadows you saw on the ground? That's a great question. They were all different sizes. Some sizes, about the size of a quarter, though, I would say. But they were everywhere. It was all over. I could look down on my shoes, and I could see them on my shoes. That was incredible. Like, again, I think for 2024, we'll bring a camera out here to show you guys what the ground view looks like, because it's just as spectacular. I had forgotten since 2017 how spectacular a ground experience that is.
So yeah, if you guys have yet to get your solar eclipse glasses, for this one, you will definitely want those for the one in 2024 coming up in April.
Robbie saying, hat tip to High Point Scientific for doing this. Thank you so much for tuning in.
We have a quick where are you from, Kyle? You are broadcasting in New Mexico, Santa Fe, New Mexico, I believe, and I am here living vicariously through you here in Ohio.
Yep, that is correct.
Best eclipse viewing on YouTube from Creative Soul. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we appreciate
the entire team appreciates it.
We appreciate hearing all the positive feedback about this stream. It was difficult to get together, but I think the result has been more than worth it. Jana asking, is that a solar flare we're looking at? We're actually looking at a prominence on the side of the sun there. Those prominences are bigger than Jupiter, though. And yes, Jerry, a solar flare, could absolutely knock out power in America if one were strong enough. I believe there was one in the 1800s called the Carrington event that was so strong that if it happened nowadays, it would knock out the power across the entire world for a couple of months. So the sun is a dynamic and dangerous place, you know, and as we reach solar maximum, we're definitely expecting to see more sun flares and coronal mass ejections coming from the sun. The sun is a very energetic place, not for just people on the ground, but for people in space. For the Artemis missions, for example, that we're going back to the moon, with astronauts are going to have advanced type of shielding to be able to protect from the active coronal mass ejections coming from the sun.
And this is the main reason, or one of the main reasons why we study the sun, like the Parker Solar Probe, and it just gives us a better understanding of how the sun works and can possibly warn us soon to turn off electronics before we get a big CME coming towards us.
Indeed. Let's switch back to my view real quick. We'll just compare. This was the view, about 12 minutes ago. We saw, if you're just tuning in, excuse me, I can't talk. I'm really cold. I apologize. If you're just joining us, about 12 minutes ago, we saw the annular solar eclipse. So now we're just sort of winding down from that. I definitely tell it's getting brighter outside. It's also getting a little bit warmer. It was getting really cold there. Take another quick look with my eclipse glasses. Looks beautiful. So yeah, guys, as we're out of the maximum period of the eclipse, if you have any questions about how any of this stuff works, feel free to ask, and we'll be more than happy to answer them.
We have Amanda Casto saying that this is absolutely wild to see, especially to be able to see those solar flares. Amanda Casto is actually a friend of mine in Ohio. Unfortunately, she cannot view the event, but she is here living it with us. So thank you, Amanda, for tuning in.
Serena is saying this is the best eclipse coverage on YouTube. Thank you. Serena, thank you so much. That means so much to us. See a question from Teresa Brown. They're asking a question about space debris surrounding the planet. What do you have any information about that? So yeah, space debris is definitely a concern, especially for astronauts on the space station, for example, but as well as for satellites and things like that. Space debris is an ever-growing problem, and some companies are trying their best to mitigate it, but unfortunately, as we become more of a spacefaring civilization, space debris is just an inevitable consequence of that, especially in low Earth orbit. We can mitigate that by having satellites in lower orbits that come down over a period of time, but space debris will always be an issue. Asha says, thank you for the excellent streaming. We appreciate that.
Again, we have, and on the High Point Scientific website through our astronomy hub, we have several articles which Kyle and I and our team have written, and amongst those articles you can find videos as well. And these are all a great source of information as far as astrophotography, astronomy, the correct gear, solar gear, best gear for viewing the planets. It is the Astronomy Hub on the High Point Scientific website is a great source of information if this event has inspired you to take a closer look at the celestial cosmos and above us.
I will say I am shaking less now. I don't know if it's just adrenaline or just...
probably a little bit of both, Kyle. It's probably both. I mean, I would feel the same if I were there. It's definitely an event.
I did get some good photos. I look forward to editing them.
Kyle, thank you for your awesome commentary throughout this entire thing.
Appreciate it.
It's great to see all the compliments that we've been getting on the live stream, and this is a testament to you and your knowledge, and it's been great experiencing this with you, Kyle.
I really do appreciate that. I really do. I'm glad I was able to come out here for you guys, and it was a lot of hard work to get to this point, but again, The team here at High Point Scientific did an excellent job in getting this all together for me, and yeah. Claire says your coverage is definitely the best being streamed. I really appreciate that.
It looks like the seeing and atmospheric conditions over there suddenly jumped up considerably. I don't know if that's frame rate.
No, I saw that. That's real.
Okay, that looks like that was wild.
Tegan, you just talked about seeing and transparency, though. Can you give a better rundown on what that is for people who are not familiar with that concept?
Yeah, so seeing and transparency, you can think of it, I like to use the example, when you look over a road on a hot day, you can see the heat rising over the directly over the street. You can also see this through a telescope when you're looking at the moon or the planets, sometimes under really bad seeing conditions or high atmospheric turbulent conditions. The planets in the moon it looks like they're shaking, kind of like they're underwater. So this is what we refer to as poor seeing conditions or atmospheric turbulence. Under good seeing conditions, when the atmosphere is still, it's a still night. Sometimes this happens when it's humid, high levels of humidity outside. This is the best time to do planetary viewing, planetary photography, or even lunar photography. This prevents shaking of the views through the atmosphere, and you get a nice steady view. That view right there of the sun is absolutely incredible through the telescope in Tucson.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
That was a good view. Let's see if I can switch back to that in a minute. Yeah, so this is, again, for the H-alpha telescope. I'm trying to get it better adjusted for you guys. But, yeah, this is a close-up view of the sun. You can see those prominences on the edge of the sun there coming out from the surface of the sun. Absolutely beautiful to see. And this is out in Tucson, Arizona. This is where this view is coming from. So we have, again, two views of the eclipse here today. We had one out in Tucson and we had one out here in Santa Fe.
I don't know if you've zoomed in. Maybe Vince over there in Tucson has zoomed in a bit, but that view, those prominences are incredible. The surface detail is awesome.
It really is. And you can see the edge of the moon there too.
Yes.
And you can see even some, I think you might be able to see some of the hints of the mountains on the side of the moon there too as well.
What an awesome event.
That was super cool to see. Again, this was an H-alpha telescope. An H-alpha telescope. Tegan, can you explain that again one more time for people who might not be familiar why this is such a different view than with the Mylar filter?
Yes, they just highlight different parts of the sun. The Mylar filter is a visible light that's bringing in what we could see through that film. But the hydrogen alpha filter blocks out other wavelengths besides hydrogen light emitted through the hydrogen alpha wavelength, and that gives us great detail on the surface and in those prominences that you see on the edge of the sun. There are also filters for nebula hydrogen alpha filters, because the most abundant element in the universe is hydrogen, I believe, and nebula consist of a lot of hydrogen emissions. So when you use a hydrogen alpha filter for like nebula, you get a gorgeous amount of detail coming from that target. And same with the sun, you get a vast amount of prominence detail and surface detail when looking through a hydrogen scope.
You really do. And this is such a gorgeous view of the partial eclipse as seen from Tucson, Arizona. Again, if you're just tuning in, we had the annular solar eclipse occur about 30 minutes ago. So if you're looking to see the eclipse, unfortunately, the eclipse has passed our location, at least the annular eclipse have. So now we're just looking at a partial solar eclipse as we reach C4, or contact 4, towards the end, which would mark the end of today's event. We'll probably wind down the stream beforehand, probably in about 30 minutes or so. So get your questions in. If you have any more questions about how this stuff works, we'll be happy to answer them.
So we have a Sky Tour live stream with Mark D'Antonio. He's differentiating between a flare and a prominence, and that's, I think, relative information here. A flare is an explosive release of high energy particles, and a prominence is an eruptive stream of plasma. Flares leave the sun, and prominences ride the magnetic field lines back down to the surface.
I still just can't get over seeing all those rings on the ground. I'm still thinking about that, T. And like the
Yeah,
rings I
that's
saw on
cool.
the ground, that was super cool.
Were you able to get any pictures of the rings, like with your phone?
I was trying to grab my phone to take a picture, but my hands were shaking too much. But
It's cold out there.
it is cold. But it's warming up now. But yeah,
Ken Proctor is asking what telescope is being used for the Lunt 60 millimeter hydrogen alpha single stack.
That is a great telescope too. Jerry says it takes 8 minutes for light to reach the Earth. That is absolutely true. The reason for that is because light travels fast, but it doesn't travel infinitely fast. It takes time to travel between point A and point B. Because of that, we see things in the universe not as they currently are, but as they were. So we're looking at the sun as it was 8 minutes ago. Now, nothing's happened to the sun since then. It's still there shining brightly. But if you look out into the cosmos, billions and billions of light years in the past, there are stars whose light we see on Earth, or galaxies even, but there are stars in our own Milky Way that are hundreds of thousands of light years away that might no longer even exist. We are looking at a sky of ghosts, as Carl Sagan once said.
And for instance, Betelgeuse, the star in the Orion constellation, that's been very speculative to have either have gone supernova already, or it will be exploding soon. But as far as we know, it could have already gone supernova, and we're just waiting for that light to reach Earth. And it could be very soon, or it could be in 10,000 years. Just an example of how light takes time to travel and is not infinitely fast.
Indeed. Yeah, it's amazing just to think how big the universe is, that for light, something as instantaneous as light even is challenged by the immensity of the cosmos.
It's not very fast and when you get down to it, it seems fast to us beings here on Earth, but 186,000 miles per second it takes about 1.5 seconds, 1.2 seconds to reach the moon, about 2 seconds for a full trip from the moon and back to Earth.
Indeed, and that's a real challenge for the upcoming Artemis missions. There is a communication lag. Although going to the moon, it's not a significant communications lag. Eventually, the goal of NASA and Artemis is to use the moon as a staging point to go on to Mars. So when astronauts are going to Mars, there's going to be significant problems with communications due to that light speed lag time. So, and yes, again, for those who aren't aware, NASA is going back to the moon with the Artemis program with as soon as 2025. We are hoping to be able to send the Artemis 2 crew around the moon. That'll be followed by the Artemis 3 mission, where they will actually land on the south pole of the moon, get some cool space rocks, come back home, and it will mark NASA's return to the moon after 50 years since Apollo 17. So very exciting times coming up in the space program with the Artemis program, as well as other programs that are going on, like for example, Psyche, which just launched yesterday as a matter of fact. Psyche launched on a Falcon Heavy off to the asteroid Psyche, where it's going to get some cool observations in a few years' time. So it's lots of stuff going on in the space program, especially as it relates to our moon, and exciting times.
Jerry Thompson, he says, it takes hundreds of Earths to fit inside the sun. I think it might be surprising to find out that 1.2 million Earths could actually fit inside the sun. And I believe 1,500 Jupiters could fit, or 1,300 Jupiters could fit inside the sun, and 1,000 Earths could fit inside Jupiter.
That's a lot of Earths.
Yeah, it is.
Matt is asking what telescope is being used in Tucson for this stream, and that is a Lunt. What is it, Lunt 60?
Yeah, this is a Lunt 60 millimeter single stack hydrogen alpha.
Extremely cool. I'll switch back to my view real quick so we can just compare. Actually, I think my view might have frozen. Let me investigate that. Huh. 1 second, Tegan. I'm working something technical here. SkyTour livestream is saying we use high point equipment in our STL's remote observatory in Arizona.
Oh, that's cool. Is it for SkyTour live stream? I wonder if they're using like solar equipment or is it for visual or astrophotography purposes?
That's a great question. Matt, the view you're seeing right now is coming from Tucson, Arizona, and the actual view of the annular solar eclipse was held from Santa Fe, New Mexico.
And David says the light we see and feel was generated in the core of the sun thousands of years ago, but only left the surface 8 minutes ago. And yes, that is very true. The journey of a photon from the core is not as streamlined and as straight as you would think. It experiences millions upon billions of interactions within the sun until it kind of rises to the surface and then leaves and catches our eyes.
Okay, Tegan, I have my view pulled up again, so it's just neat to compare and contrast. This is not a H-alpha telescope. This is just a simple Mylar white light filter that's in front of it, but we can see that the eclipse is definitely ongoing, and we are nearing the end of the eclipse today. And you can definitely tell the seeing and the transparency has definitely gotten worse over time. But I'm just so grateful the weather and everything shaped out the way it did, because the weather today, the forecast for Santa Fe and Albuquerque was looking really questionable. But when I woke up this morning, there were like no clouds outside. So I was like, what was the concern?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
there wasn't a single cloud in front of the sun during the eclipse, and it was just beautiful. I can't get over that. Like, it wasn't the same experience as what I saw in 2017 during the 2017 eclipse, but just wow. It was definitely a lot darker. It was cold. The animals were acting kind of weird, and it was just so cool to see.
Yeah, there's the annular eclipse that you've experienced, I'm sure, is incredible. But again, there really is nothing in life close to the experience that you get with a total solar eclipse. It is, if you are able to see one in totality, it is an experience that you will remember for the rest of your life.
It really is.
And for all of those who are wanting to experience the solar eclipse next year in April of 2024, if you look in the description of this YouTube live stream, we have provided links to solar eclipse glasses that are made in the USA and are NASA approved. We have solar filters. We also have links and recommendations to little equatorial mounts and tracking mounts that are great for solar telescopes, binoculars, and an education center, all links that you will need for viewing the solar eclipse on April 8th, 2024. You can find in the description below on this video. There's a wealth of information on the High Point Scientific website.
See, I seen some observations coming in from the eclipse from other people who were reviewing our live stream. Granny Girl on YouTube is saying, in San Antonio, Texas, that was amazing. I looked down my driveway and saw there were circles, priceless. Yeah, that was exactly what I was seeing. They were on my shoes and everywhere. That was super neat to see. Creative Soul is saying, I actually felt this eclipse with my entire body. It was amazing. Yeah, the eclipse is more than just a visual experience. It was felt. I could feel it. The temperature was dropping. The birds were coming out. The stars were, the brighter planets were poking out. I didn't see any stars. I just saw some planets. It was beautiful to behold. It really was. So I saw some more questions on Facebook coming in about the gear that's being used for this live stream. And we talked about this a bit, but I want to talk about it again. For those who are wondering, I'm using a special type of astrophotography camera called a ZWO-ASI 183MC Pro. It's a 20 megapixel sensor, capturing about 19 frames per second. And like a DSLR, it's a color camera. The camera is connected to a 135mm f2 camera lens. In front of the lens is a 90mm solar filter, which is made of mylar and is protecting my camera sensor from being impacted by the sun's intense light. Now, if I were to take off the mylar filter, my camera would actually be destroyed by the intense light. The mylar filter acts as a neutral density filter, blocking out 99.999% of the light. The 0.0001% of the light that makes it through is the light that you see for this live stream. This is why it's safe to look at the sun through a mylar filter that meets a specifically designed standard. The camera and camera lens is sitting on top of an Ioptron Skyguider Pro. This is what's called an equatorial mount, meaning that it's aligned with the north celestial pole to be able to move on celestial coordinates instead of azimuth and altitude. What this basically means is that instead of tracking the sky in 2 axes, I need only to track in 1. This little mount is a great travel companion. I've used it for 2 years and I've never had any issues using it. It charges off a USB cable and can easily fit on a carry-on bag, which is why I was able to bring all this gear with me from my flight from Orlando to Santa Fe. If you're also looking for little travel mounts, I'd recommend something like this Sky Watcher Star Adventurer mount. It's a great little portable mount too. Another mount could be the ZWO AM3 mount. Could be pretty good to look at as well, and the AM5 mount as well, all of which can easily fit in a carry-on, and then you could take it with you to see the solar eclipse in April.
For all those viewing, we have been extremely happy that you guys have been able to come and view this eclipse with us. It's been an awesome experience.
It really has been. Sunny gets some more reports in. Sunny says, we had crescents on sidewalk here in Farmersville, Texas. Johnny says, perfect experience here in Amarillo, Texas. We track Dark Side of the Moon as our soundtrack music. The whole thing was breathtaking. I bet it was. It really was spectacular to watch the eclipse classes. I would play some music like Dark Side of the Moon if we wouldn't get copyright strike for it, but that'd be a perfect choice for sure. So yeah, go ahead, Tegan.
No, just for all those tuning in, we've pinned High Point Scientific. We have pinned a comment in our chat talking about the camera, the specific camera, the lens, and the mount, as well as the filter that you are using to get this view right now.
Tegan, just as you began
I just saw that.
Yeah.
What was that?
That was a plane that went in front of the sun. That was a plane. That was an airplane. That was like a Boeing 757 that just went right in front of the sun. I have to go back into capture of that. That's what 2 minutes and 28 seconds. I got somebody write that down in the chat where they saw the sun go in front, the plane go in front of the sun, because that was awesome.
Yeah, I'm trying to look for it here on the live stream. That was cool.
Yep. Always neat to see that. Springtree is asking, could you explain why you would see circles on the ground during the eclipse? That is a fantastic question, actually. So the reason we're seeing circles on the ground is because the branches in the trees, for example, um, create little holes basically that light will pass through, and tiny obscurations like that are able to produce an image on the ground of the sun. So it is because of the light passing through the branches of the tree, they're passing through small obstructions, and they're able to produce an image on the ground. Leslie from Phoenix, we had a great view, but not totality. Well, again, this wasn't a total solar eclipse. This was an annular solar eclipse, so I gotta research what the word is for that. Annularity? I don't know, but
Yeah, I've been just referring to it as totality for an annular eclipse. So I'm sure there is a word for it, Kyle.
good deal. Creative Soul saying, so this would be considered the dark side of the moon, literally? Yes.
Well, yeah, today it is the dark side of the moon, yep. But because the orbit of the moon, it's in it, or the rotation is tidally locked with Earth, the dark side of the moon is, or the far side of the moon is referenced as the side that we can't see. But today, we cannot see the side that we typically see because it is a new moon.
Indeed. Folks, so we'll probably be wrapping up here in about 7 minutes because I need some time to tear down my gear so I can take it off to a separate location. So yeah, go ahead and try to get your questions in, and we'll be happy to try to answer them.
And for all those who have enjoyed our live stream, we do live streams on every major astronomical event, lunar eclipses, even some meteor showers, prominent meteor showers, solar eclipses. And if you are interested in astronomy or astrophotography, we do several videos per month over astrophotography and gear. And if you do like this content, be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of the future content that we do create. It's a blast, and it's so great being able to create a live content for everybody,
it really
sharing
is.
knowledge.
It definitely is, and I enjoy doing this stuff.
Can we do a quick switch over to Tucson? It looks like we may have a lot of good detail over there on the solar surface through the hydrogen alpha scope.
Yep, I've gone ahead and made that switch, and we can see the view right now. So I'll probably take a second to transition over for your end of the stream, Tegan. But yeah, this is a beautiful view that I'm seeing from Vince in Tucson of the partial eclipse. And I'm just going to sneak one last look at my glasses. Yep, still see it.
Oh yeah, lots of surface detail, and those solar prominences are incredible.
They really are. So if you're just joining us and you're looking to see the annular solar eclipse, you have just missed it. If you go back at about 45 minutes into the stream, you should be able to see the annular solar eclipse. But we got a fantastic view outside of Santa Fe, a beautiful ring of fire in the sky. And again, this view is coming from High Point Scientific. We are the largest retailer of telescopes and astrophotography gear in the United States. Our team of experts have over 150 years of combined experience serving the amateur astronomy and astrophotography community. We are all passionate about astronomy and astrophotography, and we are here to share our love of the universe and all of our knowledge with you.
We have Matthew Paul asking, is this our own Matthew Paul, perhaps? If this is a hydrogen alpha image, and it definitely is from the Luntz 60 millimeter.
Yep, that's the one. Alrighty, I think we are about at wrap-up point, Tegan. What do you think?
Yes, that is okay. We have passed annular totality of the annular eclipse, whatever you want to call that. And the moon is making its way out of away from the front of the sun. So yes, I think we have seen first contact, second contact, and I think it is a good time to make that switch.
It is. And yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in to the stream today. This was an absolute amazing experience for me, and I hope it was for you. I literally have goosebumps thinking about what I just saw. It was such a beautiful experience, and especially to be able to share with all of you, I could not feel more grateful. I was joined by Tegan today here at High Point Scientific. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the live views of the annular solar eclipse. It was a ton of fun, and we will see you for the next solar eclipse. But until then, thank you guys for checking in, and always remember to keep looking up.
Thank you, everybody, so much.